Okay, so yesterday we have covered briefly on the range of suffering. Not yesterday, but in the previous days. Range of suffering, and then also the causes of suffering. Now we are going to read the part on cutting off the causes of suffering, which is the third criterion that Bhikkhu Bodhi mentioned. Okay, so I will start reading first, and then I will pass it to someone else. Cutting off the causes of suffering. To free ourselves from suffering fully and finally, we have to eliminate it by the root. And that means to eliminate ignorance. But how does one go about eliminating ignorance? The answer follows clearly from the nature of the adversary. Since ignorance is a state of not knowing things as they really are, what is needed is knowledge of things as they really are. Not merely conceptual knowledge, knowledge as idea, but perceptual knowledge. A knowing which is also a seeing. This kind of knowing is called wisdom, panya. Wisdom helps to correct the distorting work of ignorance. It enables us to grasp things as they are, in actuality, directly and immediately, free from the screen of ideas, views, and assumptions our minds ordinarily set up between themselves and the real. Okay, for the next paragraph, I would like to pass it to Mei Yin.
Okay. To eliminate ignorance, we need wisdom. But how is wisdom to be acquired? As indubitable knowledge of the ultimate nature of things, wisdom cannot be gained by mere learning. By gathering and accumulating a battery of facts, however, the Buddha says wisdom can be cultivated. It comes into being through a set of conditions which we had the power to develop. These conditions are actually mental factors, components of consciousness, which fit together into a systematic structure that can be called a path in the word's essential meaning, a causeway for movement leading to a goal. The goal here is the end of suffering, and the path leading to it is the noble eightfold path with its 8 factors: right view, right intention, right speed, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and the right concentration. Thank you.
Thanks, Mei Yin. Well done. Okay, the next one, maybe we can invite Dita to read.
The Buddha calls this path the middle way, Majjhima Patipada. It is the middle way because it steers clear of 2 extremes, 2 misguided attempts to gain release from suffering. One is the extreme of indulgence in sense pleasures, the attempt to extinguish dissatisfaction by gratifying desire. This approach gives pleasure, but the enjoyment won is gross, transitory, and devoid of deep contentment. The Buddha recognized that sensual desire can exercise a tight grip over the minds of human beings, and he was keenly aware of how ardently attached people become to the pleasure of the senses. But he also knew that this pleasure is far inferior to the happiness that arises from renunciation, and therefore he repeatedly thought that the way to the ultimate eventually requires the relinquishment of sensual desire. Thus, the Buddha describes the indulgence in sense pleasure as low, common, worldly, ignoble, not leading to the goal.
Okay, thank you, Nita. Okay, we have read paragraph. Perhaps it is a good time to stop for a while and then review what we have read. So firstly, are there any difficult words that you were not sure that you would like to define? I think this is indubitable. Does any of you know what indubitable means? Okay, I think let's ask Google for this. Impossible to doubt, unquestionable. That's one. And then what else do we have? Any more difficult words that you guys want it to be defined? How about ardently? Does anyone know what ardently means? Okay, let's ask Google. Very enthusiastically or passionately? Okay, so back again to the reading materials. So we have started to explore. Before this, firstly, we have defined, or not we, the text has defined the full range of suffering briefly, and then it also talks about the cause of suffering, and then finally, this section, it talks about how to cut the causes of suffering. So it started by explaining that we have to eliminate the cause by the root if we really want to stop suffering. Remember again these two words, fully and finally, final and complete. We have to really cut it off at the root. We cannot just, simply cut off the leaves. So it starts off by saying we have to eliminate ignorance. But how do we go about eliminating ignorance? If ignorance is defined as state of knowing things as they really are, this one, the keyword is not knowing, then what is needed is knowledge of things as they really are, the complete opposite of ignorance. So it's said in this line here. And not just merely conceptual knowledge. This is interesting because, everyone can read the Four Noble Truths. Everyone can read the Noble Eightfold Path. But after reading, the knowledge we have is just an idea. What we needed here is a perceptual knowledge, a knowing, which is also a seeing. So it's an experiential view that not just a mere fact, but also a way of living. This kind of knowing is called wisdom, panya. Okay. That is the first one. And the second paragraph talks about how can wisdom be acquired. If wisdom is to be used to eliminate ignorance, how can we acquire it? It is precisely this Noble Eightfold Path. the path leading to it, which is explained or stated in the last sentence here. So before I continue, are there any comments?
Actually, I want to say a few things.
Yes, Anshit.
Yeah, cause I was just thinking about it. Usually when we are talking about the cause of dukkha, they usually quote the three things, the tanha. It is the kama tanha, the bhava tanha, and the vibhava tanha. So it's like the craving for sensual pleasure, sensual craving, then craving for becoming, craving for non-becoming. I think I was like wondering if like because the way they phrase it seems to use the ignorance to be I think that ignorance is the underlying factor, but sometimes it can be a bit hard for us to see how immediately how the ignorance can cause us to be in suffering. But maybe through the presence of this intermediate stage, then we begin to see how it actually leads us to a state of suffering. As this is something just wanted to highlight. And also the part about the perceptual knowledge as well as the wisdom and the conceptual knowledge. I feel like sometimes we are a bit too hard on the conceptual knowing. I feel like it is through this conceptual knowing that we begin to have ways to explore Buddhism, as ways in which we enter to Buddhism to start to think deeper. I know like anicca, dukkha, anatta is like the final answer to every question, but it is also because we have that perspective to begin to explore the world in the form of anicca, dukkha, and anatta, until maybe you can eventually get to it yourself. But you know, it helps springboard the process. I mean, if it's just a whole process of let's find out on our own, then maybe the Buddha didn't need to exist so many years ago. So yeah, I think don't be too hard on conceptual knowing until that's just my thoughts.
Okay, that's a very good point. Thanks for highlighting.
Yeah.
Firstly, I'd like to address your second point about the perceptual knowledge. What I'd like to emphasize here is not that conceptual knowledge is not important. It is still important, but perceptual knowledge is the one that trumps conceptual knowledge. But still, if we put it in stages, let's say the first one, no knowledge at all. The second one is conceptual knowledge. The third one, the highest one, is the perceptual knowledge. So of course, I would really agree with Onchit. The second one, conceptual knowledge, is still much better than no knowledge. And I also agree with Onchit that only through conceptual knowledge, we can jump into perceptual knowledge. So is that what you mean?
Actually, not. I think it's possible for one to gain the perceptual knowledge, but actually the conceptual knowledge like gives you the vocabulary to describe what you're actually experiencing. It's like sometimes like when you say metta, maybe then you say you wish for everyone to be well and happy. I feel like it's not exactly because it is simply that you want to wish others to be well and happy, but that seems to be only vocabulary capable of describing the feeling of metta. So or like bodhicitta or whatever, so on and so forth. Like the terms itself are so difficult to unpack when you're experiencing it maybe in its tiniest glimpse, but the vocabulary then lends itself in such a manner. It's like really an oversimplification, but that seems to be the only way to describe it. So yeah, I think it's possible for you to get to perceptual knowledge without having the conceptual part. But the conceptual knowledge is at least the words is the way to describe the experience that you're going through. Yeah.
Okay, I got your point. Yes. Does anyone else got Onchit's point? I think it should be okay. I think he explains it well. Okay. And what was your first point again? Initially, just quickly.
Oh,
Sorry?
the craving.
Oh, the craving. Okay. I think you have
the craving.
Yes, the craving. Yes, I think you have a point, but the craving I think will explain below in the text, will be elaborated further. But to start off, I think Venerable Bhikkhu Bodhi just wants to start off with what is the root. And then from the root, he starts off to explore all the intermediary. Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, but we will find out when we read further. Because I think this text is really comprehensive. Yeah. So thanks for the feedback and the participation. I think you really made a good point. Okay, how about anyone else other than Onchit? Okay, the third paragraph is firstly explore two misguided attempts. Firstly, extreme indulgence in sense pleasures. It explored the first one, sense pleasures, which is, I think, most of us do. You know, lay people living in city life, we always seek for sense pleasure. The best food, the most tastiest drinks. For me, I always seek for a very good matcha latte with a cream on top. Yeah. So this paragraph explores why sense pleasure has drawbacks. So what is the drawbacks? It grip over my mind, over the minds of human beings. So matcha latte, matcha latte, matcha latte is always, you know, come to my mind. So my mind is like kind of bound or tied by the things that give me pleasure. And then another reason is that the pleasure of sense, the sense pleasure is inferior to the other types of happiness, the happiness that arises from renunciation. So this paragraph ends with the Buddha describing sense pleasures are low, common, worldly, ignoble, not leading to the goal. Okay, I think we have 2 paragraphs left. We can finish this section. So Dita, would you like to nominate the next person to read?
Maybe Sis Billy.
Okay, Sis Billy.
Okay. Okay, the other extreme is the practice of self-mortification, the attempt to gain liberation by afflicting the body. This approach may stem from a genuine aspiration for deliverance, but it works within the compass of a wrong assumption that renders the energy expended barren of results. The error is taking the body to be the cause of bondage, when the real source of trouble lies in the mind. The mind obsessed by greed, aversion, and delusion. To rid the mind of these defilements, the affliction of the body is not only useless but self-defeating, for it is the impairment of a necessary instrument. Thus, the Buddha describes this second extreme as painful, ignoble, not leading to the goal.
Okay, thanks, Billy. Would you like to nominate the next person to read?
Sister Doreen?
Aloof from these 2 extreme approaches is the Noble Eightfold Path, called the middle way, not in the sense that it affects a compromise between the extremes, but in the sense that it transcends them both by avoiding the errors that each involves. The path avoids the extreme of sense indulgence by its recognition of the futility of desire and its stress on renunciation. Desire and sensuality, far from being means to happiness, are springs of suffering to be abandoned as the requisite of deliverance. But the practice of renunciation does not entail the tormenting of the body. It consists in mental training, and for this, the body must be fit, a steady support for the inward work. Thus, the body is to be looked after well, kept in good health, while the mental faculties are trained to generate the liberating wisdom. That is the middle way, the Noble Eightfold Path, which gives rise to vision, gives rise to knowledge, and leads to peace, to direct knowledge, to enlightenment, to Nibbana.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thanks, Sis Doreen, for reading. Okay, firstly, very quickly, any word that you would like to be defined?
How about mortification?
Yeah, exactly. Okay. I think this is like hurting our own self, but that's such self-mortification. Okay, mortification means great embarrassment and shame. The second one, the action of subduing one's bodily desires. Okay, that's one.
Sorry, Marcel, how about afflicting the body, afflicting?
This one, okay. Affliction. To cause pain or trouble to. Affect adversely. Okay. Any other words? Bondage, maybe? But the state of being a slave. Okay. Okay, anything else?
Deliverance.
Deliverance, yeah. This is a big word. Where is deliverance?
Second line of the paragraph, the third paragraph.
Second line, okay. Deliverance. Oops, okay. Meaning. The action of being rescued or set free. Yeah. See if there's more. Yeah, the synonyms will be liberation, release, freeing, rescue, yeah, along all those lines. Okay, anything else? If not, then the first one, the practice of self-mortification. I don't think any of us do this, right? Do you? I think most of us fall into the other extreme, the extreme of sensual pleasures. Probably Onchit is an exception. He meditated for 3 hours. Okay, just kidding. Yeah, and then this section closed by avoiding these two extremes is the Noble Eightfold Path, the middle way, not in the sense that it's a compromise between these two, but in the sense that it transcends both of them, and avoiding the errors of the two extremes. So firstly, we recognize the futility of desire and its stress on renunciation. And secondly, we also do not entail the tormenting of the body. We keep the body in good shape so that we can practice, so that we can do the mental training needed. Kept in good health, and then so that we can train the mental faculties. And that is exactly this one, the one that we are reading, the middle way, the Noble Eightfold Path. Okay, I think we wrap up just nicely. We are over time a little bit, but at least we have wrapped up the introduction. Tomorrow, we will finally go through the first component of the Noble Eightfold Path. Yeah. So if you will, you can read it beforehand. This material is something that will benefit from multiple reading. So there is no harm in pre-reading. Yeah. But anyway, we will go through this again tomorrow. And that's it for today. So let's do a dedication. Okay, please recite together with me. Dedication of merits. 愿消三障诸烦恼，愿得智慧真明了，普愿罪障悉消除，世世常行菩萨道。阿弥陀佛。Till we meet again, may we be guided by the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay, thanks everyone for participating. Have a deliverance day
you.
ahead. Thanks, Dita, for joining. See you again.
Thanks, Marcel. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Everyone. Have a good day, everyone.
Yeah.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.